Welcome to The Making of, the podcast from Swansea University that takes you behind the scenes of some remarkable success stories. In each episode, we sit down with extraordinary people to discover how they reached the very top of their fields and the highs and lows and lessons they learned along the way. Amadi Bush, I was privileged to study at Swansea University in the 90s, and in this episode, we're joined by Nonso Amadi. Nonso is a Nigerian-born, Canada-based singer, songwriter, and producer, known for his smooth blend of R&B, soul, and Afrofusion. Emerging onto the global scene with his breakout single Tonight, he quickly became a distinctive voice in contemporary African music. With a sound that effortlessly bridges cultures, Nonso continues to push creative boundaries, crafting music that feels both deeply personal and universally resonant. And we're excited to find out how his time studying at the University of Swansea shaped the artist and person he is today. Nonso, welcome.
Thank you. That was amazing. Thanks for the intro.
Well, it's brilliant to have you on the podcast to chat. Now, you join us from just outside Toronto in Canada. Tell us where you're based, and we've been moaning about the weather being cold over here. What's it like for you right now?
Well, I'm in a small city called London, Ontario, and it's very akin to London. I believe it was made by the British back in the day, so it's made to kind of reflect the English building standards, and it reminds me of my time back in the UK. It's nice out here. It's pretty quiet. Toronto's the busy city in Canada. Everyone knows about Toronto, but I like to be in the peaceful regions of a country. Yeah, I
Nice
am
and
making
calm.
sense. That's why I was in Swansea as well, as opposed to being in London or Birmingham or somewhere.
Yeah, you like to be out of the kind of melee of things a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then will Toronto see any games in the World Cup at all when the football World Cup is in Canada and North America and Mexico?
I believe so. I believe the US and Canada automatically qualify just because they're hosting it. So definitely they'll be playing. Yeah, actually, yeah, they will be playing. Yeah.
Okay, and is that something that you're into, Nonso? You're a football guy?
Most definitely. I'm a Chelsea fan all the way. Go Blues. We did amazing our last game, 3-0 Barcelona. Shout out to Chelsea.
There you go. A line in the sand right at the start of this chat. Well, let's take things right back, Nonso, and talk about Nigeria, the place of your
Okay.
birth, a country that is such an important and proud part of who you are today. What does
Yes.
Nigeria, when you think of Nigeria, what does Nigeria mean to you and symbolize for you?
Well, Nigeria is home. I was born in 1995 in Lagos, Nigeria. And it was back in the days where, you know, Afro beats, as we know it now, pretty much was still in its early stages. I'm talking about Fela Kuti, Kentania, the legends, and as we know them, those were the people that were being played on the streets of Nigeria. So it pretty much shaped my musical career. It shaped me as a person. I left Nigeria at the age of 15 for Swansea. I was already in a university called Covenant University in Lagos, but my mom thought she wanted me to be in the UK to join my younger brother. So she transferred me from Covenant to Swansea University, and that was how the transition happened. But Nigeria birthed my music career. It started me listening to those songs on the streets, my sisters playing music on TV. It was the start of everything for me.
And so do you feel that you've grown up, particularly in Nigeria, being surrounded by music?
Oh yeah, most definitely. So the thing is, my parents aren't necessarily musical people. They listen to their own native or traditional music, but in terms of what formed my musical choices and tastes, I'll give credit to my elder sisters. I have two other sisters, and they loved music growing up. We couldn't watch cartoons. We couldn't have fun with the TV as kids because they were always just playing music, and that was innately entering my inner being, and it was something that I was able to pull out of me when it came time to actually sing. I could remember the R&B songs that were playing on the TV, on their Walkman cassette players. I could remember those songs, and I could kind of like emulate the melodies I heard from those songs. And it's why I'm an R&B Afrobeat artist, because the songs they played were heavily R&B music. So talk about Craig David, Alicia Keys, Brandy. These people, Usher. They made the love songs, and that was what stuck with me growing up. Yeah.
And is that how you've always been, in that you hear a thing and that stays with you? You're always walking around and taking in the influences of the area that surrounds you?
Yes, but it's not like a conscious thing. I believe like this is the enigma of an artist. Like they have the ability to look at the surrounding world and, you know, it's almost like a superpower where they convert those experiences. It could be traumatic experiences, it could be whatever, but they're able to like turn that out into something creative and something artistic. So I didn't know that I was going to be a musician growing up. But it just so happened that I did have that gift in me that when it came time to it, someone's playing a beat and they're like, "Hey, who wants to play around and freestyle?" Everyone's freestyling, but when it comes to me, being that young age of 12, 13, freestyling, everyone's surrounding me. They're like, "Whoa, what is he doing? How is he doing that?" It's almost like a superpower. So I believe, like, for young kids, if we could kind of spot those traits early in them and nurture, that's how we can grow like a Michael Jackson or a Bob Marley,
Yeah.
if we kind of like nurture those things early. Yeah.
So do you have to work at keeping that element of Nigeria alive in your heart? I mean, obviously it's important to assimilate because you've moved around a bit and so on, but I guess you got to. How do you work to make sure that you keep that kind of Nigerian spirit intact?
So a heavy part about African music is you have to realize it has to do with the grooves and there's something there's something in African music that moves you. It's a spiritual a lot of African musicians will like to tell you it's a spiritual thing going on because if for example my music, if I just stripped it down to what it is, it's melodies, me singing R&B melodies, it's R&B chords. So already, like, if we just have those two things, I'm purely an R&B artist. But for me to stick to a Nigerian, grounding, the groove has to make you feel like this is something different. And that's why I always incorporate African percussions, African drums. So you're listening to an R&B artist who's singing it like Craig David, but the drums are making you dance and move. And that's how the fusion happens for me personally. A lot of people have taken it in different styles. They've done that with hip hop. They've done that with, rock and roll. So many things that they can do. Jazz, Afro jazz. There's so many things that people can do. It's mostly about the drums. For you to have that African fusion, the bass, the drums are key elements in it having it. Yeah.
So how was that transition though, to move from, you talk about Nigeria where everyone's freestyling and it's very free flowing, there's a spiritual element to it, and then, to turn up in the UK where, the way people look at us in the UK as being, very reserved and not so outward going or free flowing. Do you know what I mean? To put it politely.
I was very lucky because when I went to the UK for studies in Swansea, I was able to find a Nigerian community um, that I immediately just like clicked with, and hung out a lot in Swansea University Library. We got the Tesco £3 meal deal together. I don't know if that's still a thing, but
I'm sure it is.
we would read, study, have fun, play, all that. And then when it came time for music, I'll take them to my room and play them some stuff I've been working on, and they give me real time feedback. So it was such an important moment for my musical career, like having that kind of community around me, Nigerian community. By the time I had gotten my first breakout single, I was still in the UK because I had that growth level and I had that exposure to people who could give me feedback. So it was just such a great time for me to learn how to nurture that gift I had. Yeah.
Do you know, it's a really good point actually about people finding their community or their tribe when they are at a university. Do you feel like Swansea was a good university for that in terms of helping students find other like-minded students or people might have kind of a cultural connection?
100%. Till this day, I really, really miss my Swansea good old days. It was one of the best times. For me, it was like the first time leaving the shores of Africa. That's why I had no idea what to expect. But Swansea was like the perfect place for a young Nigerian kid like me to just like discover, what they're passionate about, have a good time at school. It was a really good time, and every time I go to the UK, I make sure I stop by at the university just to check in what's happening. I just walk around. I go to there's a shop that like we used to get food from, and yeah, have good times.
So when you close your eyes and think about those amazing memories of being at the university, in terms of images in your head, like, you get these stills, these images in your head of certain periods in your life. What can you
Right.
see? Is it areas on campus, or is it the sea, or what are your Swansea slideshow that is in your mind then, Nonso?
So I was fortunate to be in a period where so I got into Swansea when it was just the Singleton campus.
Yeah.
And I think later on they had the Bay campus. So I got to experience both the Singleton and the Bay campus. So I remember like my hall where I lived. I just remember walking there for the first time with my luggage. I remember Cascada. It's such a huge part of my like, 'cause I'm like, we get to go to this place to get food, and then just above Costco is where people go to eat and have their food. So I remember those moments distinctively because food was such a big deal. Like I discovered like the food that I love in the UK. The sausage rolls. I still really want those sausage rolls. And
Swansea Market. I used to go to Swansea Market and get the packs of 10 sausage rolls, were
oh
just the
yeah.
best ever.
Oh yeah, so good. Yeah, then the beach. Where we moved to Bay Campus is when we really got to experience the beach properly because we had to go to the road all the way down, and you get to pass the beach. Just so many great times. Not none of them musical. When I close my eyes and think about Swansea, it's mostly like formative, like experiences, joyous, happy times that I'm thinking of. Because at the time, like, music was work for me. It was like, "Oh, I have some tests to do. I have some lecturers' work to do, but I'm trying to make music." So it was more like a stressful thing. So I'm not really remembering it as much as I want to, but yeah.
And then, chemical engineering. So, I mean, for someone who's kind of as creative and improvisational as yourself, Nonso, how did the chemical engineering thing come about? Because that's what you continued your studies in Swansea with chemical engineering. How did that come about?
Shout out to my parents, man. They African parents, you're only 3 things. You can only be 3 things: a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer. You can't be anything else or you're a failure. Um, so it was mostly my parents' idea. Um, and I was like, again, I was really glad to be with the Nigerian folks because they did so well in school and we studied together. So we all did well. I believe everyone had over 2-1 graduating from the Nigerian side. So we all made sure, like, when it came to our books, we were on top of it. Um, yeah, that was it.
Have you retained any of your chemical engineering knowledge, Nonso, at all now or not?
I don't think so. It's been so long. But I do remember some of the lectures, the courses we had. I remember a few things here and there because there were some particular courses that I actually enjoyed, really did enjoy, like separation processes, heat exchange, some exchange, little
It's
things
all
like that.
flowing back. It's all flowing back, Nonso.
Yeah, I'm sure if I think hard enough, I'll make 1 or 2 chemicals.
But I mean, am I right in saying that you're largely self-taught as a producer, right? So, in terms of getting to grips with, there's a lot of kit that's involved in a lot of
Yep.
technical stuff. I guess the science at Swansea University might have helped a little bit there in terms of the background and that side of your
Yeah,
mind, your brain.
yeah, yeah. No, that's definitely a good point. Yeah. Um, we all literally have we can learn from every aspect of life. So even when I did my master's in Canada here, I found doctors doing my engineering masters. I found chefs doing engineering design, and they were doing this to just learn from different fields, and it was really eye opening for me because back in Swansea doing my undergrad, these are people who are trying to they're from scientific backgrounds in high school and all that, but during the master's form, they really teach you that, like, look, you can incorporate a lot of things into different fields of life, and it doesn't have to be just engineers are engineers and that's it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think one thing that's really come across a lot in this series is that a lot of these people who've gone on to have success have obviously been very passionate about what they want to do, but they've also had a broad range of other interests as well. And I guess with music and how it's gone for you, it proves that you can study hard, but also it's quite important to have that safety valve, pressure valve to go and do your music and get your head out of that space of, say, what is a full on course, right?
Right, right, right. No, that's a good point. I mean, I even till date, like I still learn from from different fields. Whenever I get a creative block, for example, whatever breaks that block isn't going back into music. It's actually listening to someone who's a banker or someone who has a regular everyday, job. That's how I get out of that musical block. And it speaks to us as humans. I feel like before we're musicians or before we're doctors or whatever we do, we are humans first. And if you lose that sense of look, the the basic founding block of what I'm doing is I'm a human being and I'm making a human connection to another person through music, through podcasts, or whatever. If you lose that, you tend to also lose the essence of what you're doing musically or, in any other form of the walk of life. That's just how I see things. Yeah.
And then, was there anyone at campus, whether it's friends or member of staff or the faculty, that played an important role in your development that you kind of think back and think, oh, that person really helped me?
Mhm. So I was fortunate enough to actually be introduced to Swansea University through the then vice president. I've forgotten his name, but he actually came all the way to Lagos to introduce the school to us and talk about Swansea. And while I was in school, he kept his line of communication open. So whenever I had any trouble, I could always, let him know like, okay, I'm have experience in this. Is there anyone you could guide me to? So he played a huge role in just easing my smoothing out my journey in the school. Um, we also had I want to make a big shout out to a lady called Molly Chua. So she wasn't a member of staff in Swansea. She actually had a church just near the school, and she had taken in so many, young immigrant kids, Chinese, Nigerian, and just like help them feel a bit more welcome to the environment. So she played a huge part in just making sure that we felt okay, whatever we needed. Sometimes she would give us free rides around the campus when we need to go somewhere. So I just wanted to really appreciate her for that. I think it's something like over 1,000 kids she's helped ease their transition over the years. Yeah, it's important to mention that.
No, that's amazing, and that's also an excellent point in that this will be watched or listened to by young people who might be abroad right now and thinking, of coming to the UK to study. And I
Mhm,
think you mentioned earlier on, I think it is a fair point that
mhm.
London gets all the attention, or Bristol or Edinburgh, but
Yeah,
Swansea. You might be nervous about coming to a place like Swansea
great.
and not know anything about it, but you needn't worry because support's there. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. Yes, it's 100% there. And again, like I don't know about other people. Some people actually enjoy the big cities and I don't know how. But for me, there was something so calming about being in the city where you go to the city center and you can actually breathe, like walking around. You want to get your phone line from Vodafone or Vodacom, you can actually walk or do that without waiting a long line or whatever. It felt really, really stabilizing for a young kid just coming for the first time. Aside from that, like even the nature of the city itself being, a smaller city by the beach, you can walk across the beach, have a good time relaxing with your friends, which we did a lot. I must say, we really, really made use of the beach in Swansea. And we had a good time. We in school as well. We had a really enjoyable stay. Always in the library. We really had a good time. I miss those times.
And do you know what? It's so many people as well, and you wouldn't think they would do this. So many people love that library, the library at Swansea on the campus. What is it about? I mean, I spent a lot of time in there. My place. When I was there, there's something calming and comforting about the library, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think it's like it was so quiet and it was so like um it was quiet, but you could like go to your little corner with your friends and you could like really do a lot in terms of discussions or planning or thinking. and build. I think maybe that's what it is, because I remember we had so many discussions. We discovered new places to order food from. Every food, we talked about like how we're gonna tackle certain difficult courses. Like we had a particular lecture that was just like everyone's failing. Like, and we sat in the library as a team, as a group of people, and made a plan on how we're gonna like pass this course. We did so. We all did well in that course. And then I feel like that's the main, even for me musically, I was in the library, I'm like, "Hey, guys, I wanna really take this music thing seriously, but I need a microphone, I need a sound card." We all contributed money. For the first time, I bought a sound card because my friends offered to do so in the library. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, it was a huge, huge part of our upbringing. We weren't gonna go to someone's little room and be talking, we had those rooms on campus, but, like, if we wanna fit 10 people in there, it's just kinda inconvenient to do that. Yeah.
That's amazing. And then have you taken that kind of, it seems like you're quite a collaborative person, that you're willing to discuss stuff and so on. Have you taken that into your music career as well, in terms, because I know some people can be quite, very single-minded about how they want something to sound, but are you a little bit more kind of conciliatory with people that you work with?
Yes, so I didn't always, start like that. Because I'm self-taught, I mix, I produce, I write from end to end. It's mostly me, 100%. So I always felt like involving other people might slow down the process or break down the idea a little bit. Um, and I always just stood my ground on that. But more recently, in the past 3 years or so, I think around COVID, till now, it's been so many collaborators, a lot of features, a lot of even the little pieces I get second opinions on. So yeah, things have really changed in terms of that.
And then, are you still learning in terms of your art and your skill? Is there anyone in particular, music-wise, that you've learned, like, the most from, Nonso?
Yes, I am. So I find that like with Afro R&B, because there's not a lot of people up until now. There's Thames, there's who else can I call in Africa? There's Oxley. There's a few people that are now making Afro R&B music, but I find that I'm more inspired when I look outside of what's happening in the Afrobeat space. I find more, if I go back to the way I started, where my sisters played me the Western music, and I felt that inspiration. So now looking at like the Lucky Days and the artists in America that are doing R&B music, I get inspired to take a few things from them and put it in my music. And also mix wise, I watch a lot of courses. I still like, teach myself up to date um, processes on how to make my mix sound better, my music sound cleaner. All my albums, I've been mixing them with the help of mix engineers that are super professional. But I still have a heavy hand in that, so I have to make sure that I am up to date musically, music engineering wise, and all around it has to sound up to date. And that's a huge, huge thing for me.
And then, obviously, I mean, going back to the chemical engineering, did you feel a pressure or an expectation to carry on in that sector then, when the studying was done? How do we get to the situation where you're choosing to take a course into music rather than carry on down the chemical engineering path, Nonso?
Yeah, so I finished my chemical engineering degree 2016, 2015, 2016, I think 2016. And then I got admission to McMaster University in Canada, um, and kind of like used that to come all the way to Canada. Did my master's for 1 year, finished my master's, and by the time I had finished my master's, because I had made a song called "Tonight" in Swansea the year before, um, the song had gone haywire, like, everywhere. It was trending, people were looking for me, "Who's this guy?" Because I didn't have a social presence, I was just a student in university. So people are tweeting, people are trying to find out more. In fact, there were days in the library, both in Swansea and in Master, where I could hear people listen to my music next to me, and I'm like, "Oh, this is awkward." Someone didn't come up to me like, "Hey, do you know this guy?" I'm like, "Nope, I don't know him." Just because like I picture that they probably had a particular image of a musician, and I'm this scruffy kid in the with my glasses in the library. Um, but yeah, finished my master's, and by the time I was graduating in 2016, 20 yeah, one of those, I mixed the years of 2016 or 2017, graduating from my master's degree. The song Tonight had done wonders, so over 1 million streams at the time, which was a huge deal.
Yeah.
Um, and people really wanted to see me live. That was the main request. So I called my parents. I'm like, "Hey guys, this is what's happening. There's gonna be a show in Lagos. I'm inviting you guys out to come see me perform." They're like, "Wait, what? You just finished your engineering degree? Like, what do you mean you want to go perform at a show? Like, what are you talking about?" My parents were not having it, especially my dad. He's like, "Don't come back to the country. Don't you?" Yeah, he was super, super mad. Um, but I stuck my ground. Like, I'm doing the show. My sister spoke to him, and they all came out to the show in Lagos. It was something like 1,000 people, um, singing my song back, word for word, and everything we had released before then. And my dad was just like, "Okay, this is already gone. You have to see it through." And ever since then, it's just been support from them. But it was a it was a tough road getting there.
And I guess
Yeah.
you can understand their kind of fears a little bit. I mean, there might be people now listening to this who would love to get into the music industry, but wouldn't necessarily put university as one of the steps on the path to
Mhm.
the music industry. I mean, what would you say about that? Is it something that you can go to university and still get into the music industry and do both?
Yes, definitely. I would actually recommend everyone gets as high as a degree or education that they can, because even for me, like I kind of wish, for example, like I had taken a degree in audio engineering just to have that sort of background that could help me a little bit more in mixing the songs or there's Berkeley University where you could learn about music, chords, playing a guitar, singing, all that stuff. I would definitely recommend everyone studies because there's just something about um, having that education, having that thing to fall back on. If you want to be a teacher, if you want to, whatever you want to do with the degree, it's always there for you. And I don't want to like say too much that would, say push people that don't have a degree down, but I feel like there is an upper hand. Definitely need to have an education, whatever field of life it is. Just get that education, and it'll definitely benefit you in many ways. And um, yeah.
And then, if people were to do a bit of a pilgrimage, a super fan of yours was to do a pilgrimage to Swansea University to try and find the exact room or location where Tonight was written on. So where would they go?
So I wrote the song in Nigeria during the holiday, but I was recording most of my songs in room 305 Oxford Hall. That's
Wow.
in
That was your
Thanks.
recording studio, right?
Where I recorded studio, yeah.
That is amazing. And what's the best decision then that you've ever made in your career? When you look back at your career so far, and obviously you're only just starting out, but like, what's the best decision you've made?
So there was a point in time I think is a good time to kind of speak about this in terms of artists and how they view music. When I started music, when I started making music, it was mostly a hobby. I loved it. I loved the idea that I have this gift, this superpower, like we mentioned, that allows me to express, how I'm feeling, sad, happy. And I loved that whenever I played the song for friends, for strangers, they reciprocated in showing a reaction that excited me. However, like when I really got into the music industry and I really started to see like what 99% of artists do in their day-to-day lives, I was kind of like l- let down a little bit. And the reason being that I discovered like a heavy part of the music industry is business. It's more business than people realize. Like I'm sure now I understand why there's songs that I love so much, and I feel like this is the best thing in the world. But you go on YouTube and they have like 1,000 plays or 2,000 plays or barely any likes. Um, and some people who are not making as good as music as, in your opinion, you feel like it's this. What is this? The person could be rambling or whatever, and they could get 50 billion streams.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of it is the business side. So I hit this reality like a few years ago around COVID, and I was just so down. Like I couldn't create. I was like, wow, like I'm making all this music, I'm churning out stuff. And sometimes it does really well. It gets over 1 million plays and I'm so happy. And sometimes it doesn't do so well. And I'm like, I don't know what to do now. Like I'm throwing everything at it, doing all the TikTok dances and nothing. So I had to realize for myself that like, you know, I need to think of a different approach to music. I took a trip to Jamaica and I met with Bob Marley's granddaughter, and it was a lady called Danisha Pendergrass. So she, asked me the question like, "Why are you making music? Like right now, why do you put pen to paper and sing?" And I was like, I just like it, like, it's fun. She's like, "Well, it's fun, but you have to have a reason. That's the only thing that's gonna keep you here for the next
Mm.
30, 50 years." And she's like, "Bob Marley has had a reason to liberate his people, to make his people feel heard. He's the Rastafarians. He wanted them to feel heard in the entire country, and he was the voice for that." Um, so for him, like whether his song did 1 million streams or whatever, it doesn't matter. Like he's voicing out his thoughts. And she's like, "What are you passionate about? Let's help you find that voice." And I'm like, I'm really passionate about kids, young kids especially, that don't have the same educational background like me, don't have the same opportunities. And we decided there to create an organization called the Hills Foundation. So we've been able to do events here in Canada where, we do charity events and people donate, proceeds, funds, whatever we give to the little kids back in Nigeria. And it's a little way for me to just remember why I'm here. Um, when the music is, we release an album, whatever we do, if it is a single, instead of going to the club and doing a release party, we actually do a charity event. And Amazon Music has supported Nike Toronto is there. Big brands have come out to say we're behind you in this cause. Even little brands, everyone's like behind it, and it's super super amazing for me to have that kind of thing behind me. And that's the kind of us I want to be. I want to be a legacy artist and just remind people that there's more to music than streams and likes. You can actually give back with what you're doing. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. What an amazing thing to do. And, this might be part of it, but when you think back, as what has been the toughest part of your career
Mhm.
so far, Nonso?
Yeah, like I said, the part of realizing music is up and down. I remember a time where I had a show and it didn't go so well. I remember having that show in Lagos a year after I had my first show that I invited my parents to. And it was a very big artist in Nigeria that invited me to come perform on stage with him. But I didn't do any sound check. I didn't do any sort of preparation before getting on stage. So once I got on stage, I couldn't hear myself. And I started screaming to the mic, trying to get people to hear me, not knowing that the whole show was live streamed. So everyone was like,
Oh,
"Why
wow.
is this guy screaming?" Yeah, that's right.
It's a bit excited.
It was such a tough because that was the first time I got like a huge backlash online. And as a young artist, I couldn't even go online and start explaining. I'm so sorry, guys. I didn't know the mic was that. I just had to take it. It was on the papers. It was on TV. It was a hard one to bounce back from, but I'm glad we did. I'm specifically glad, it didn't break us. Yeah.
Yeah, good life lesson though, I guess, if you can overcome that. I guess one thing that, someone of your age now, in the music industry has to face that, say, someone 15, 20 years ago wouldn't have to, and that's the kind of the fickle nature of social media and how things can be clipped up out of context and disseminated on the internet, and you're not in control of it anymore.
Exactly, exactly. That's a good point. When that happened to me, I went back to the artist I performed on his stage and just seeking advice. I was really sad, and he said the one sentence he said to me was, "Welcome to the music industry." That was it. And I'm
That's
like,
it.
"Wow." He's like, "Yeah, like, he's had many, many of those, like, in his career, and he's one of the biggest artists right now, even to the today." So I really appreciated his comforts and words welcoming me officially.
Totally. And then, has there been someone that's been the biggest positive influence on your career to date so far?
Um, I have to give it to my now wife. She's been with me. We both went to school in Swansea, so she's seen every single part and aspect of my growth, my journey.
So, wow,
Yeah,
you've just got married, Nonso, so congratulations on that. You guys met at Swansea University.
yes, we did. We met at Swansea first.
Met in the library, love in the library. That's what the story could be called.
No, we met at church, at the ladies' church that I mentioned, that welcomed us, when we first came to Swansea, Molly Shores Church. There was a Presbyterian church, I've forgotten the full name, but that's where we met. She was studying economics and I was doing engineering, chemical engineering. And it was good. It was a fun time chasing her around the whole school. Yeah.
And then, one thing that's really connected a lot of people that we've talked to on this series is that you have to have that kind of passion and goal to reach that place that you want to get to. If a young person's listening to this and thinks the music industry or working in music is just something they're never going to be able to get their fingers on or attain, what would you say to them that it is doable?
It's very doable. There's people that don't even have half the talent you have wherever you are. I'm sure of it. It's your mindset. I've seen people that have gotten to the top just by sheer will and being persistent. Um, you also have to remember that you need to stand out. Don't try and be everyone else because we have a lot of those around. So try and stand out in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's what you believe in, your sound, the way you speak, just try and like set the tone and don't let people like address you accordingly. You set the rules. You actually so the type of artist I am, I let people know beforehand I'm not a club, smoking, throw money type of artist already. From my even just speaking on this podcast, I'm sure a lot of people can pick up on that. I'm more disciplined, refined, almost like a 9 to 5 musician, if you want, if you will. So it's who I am, and I have a deal with Universal Music Canada, the one of the biggest labels on the entire continent and of North America, and they know that that's Nonso Amadi. This is how we have to approach him. So you set the pace. If you're gonna work with a big label in the UK, wherever, you let them know this is the type of artist I am. This is what I'm gonna do. This is how we're gonna move, and people are gonna respect it.
And if you could talk to your student self at Swansea, what would you tell that version of Nonso about trusting the process, exploring music alongside engineering and where it could take you? What would you say to yourself if you were to go back to that library that in the not too distant past?
I feel like a lesson I wish I learned earlier was just like, not taking. I know we want to like make the music and we want to have a brand and all that, but like also there has to be an element of not taking yourself too seriously. It's such a key important thing that keeps you entertaining. So if you are an artist and you can't do a TikTok dance, or you can't like do a live video with your fans, like joking with them. That's just ideas that come to mind, but you have to try to not take yourself too seriously. Have fun sometimes, and those moments will really like help people create lasting memories of who you are. I really love artists like Doja Cat. She can go on live and just like play with you for hours, and you're just like, what is she serious? Is she like she's just having fun? Like, have fun with music. You're a musician, you're creative, you're expressive. Even if your music is dark and gloomy, make a parody version of it where you're just talking about food or something. Like, just joke around, have fun with yourself. And that's something I wish I learned early, because when I started, I'm like, okay, I'm a musician, my music has to be so on point and people have to like it just has to, but nah, sometimes just have fun, like tweet something funny, do something, and people like, "Whoa, is this coming from this guy?" Like, that's hilarious. But yeah,
And then what is next for you, Nonso? What have you got coming up on the not too distant future and the horizon?
we're planning to try do a tour. I really want to add London to the list of cities that we're doing. Try be in the UK again. But we just dropped an EP to Cry of Flood, out now everywhere. Feature and one of the songs features an amazing artist called Chaves. And now we're planning to do a bunch of shows around that EP. And yeah, check it out. Go listen to the EP. Leave me a comment or like, whatever it is. Come check me out on Instagram, Nonso Amadi, on every social platform, and I'll be there. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, listen, it's been a real privilege to chat to you. Thank you so much for sharing your time. Nonso Amadi, thank you.
Thank you.